Bryan Health marks its 100th anniversary. We have been putting a focus on William Jennings Bryan.
Bryan is known for donating his house called Fairview and some land around it for the hospital that went on to be called Bryan Memorial and now is a part of the Bryan healthcare system. In this segment, we discover the long list of achievements of William Jennings Bryan during his lifetime.
We are sitting on the porch of the former home of William Jennings Bryan here in Lincoln. The home is called Fairview, and joining me now with more is Kathi Vontz. So this house is here, people can tour it, and once home to William Jennings Bryan. Who was William Jennings Bryan?
Well, he wore several hats over the course of his professional career. He was an attorney, he was a newspaperman, he was a congressman, he was 3 times candidate for president, the youngest candidate for president from a major party in the history of the United States. He was Secretary of State under Woodrow Wilson, and he also was famous for being the prosecutor in a famous trial in Tennessee in 1925 or 26, the Scopes monkey trial. He prosecuted John Scopes, who was a teacher who was teaching the theory of evolution in violation of Tennessee law, and that became a major trial that was watched by everybody in the country. In fact, the trial was on the radio.
Maybe give us an idea of why Bryan Health, why the hospital is named Bryan. Is that named after him?
It is named after him. Actually, upon his death, they titled the hospital Bryan Memorial in honor of him. He donated land and this house to the Methodists in 1922, and they built the hospital, which opened in 25-26. They also opened a school of nursing at the same time. The nursing students were domiciled in this house until 1961.
William Jennings Bryan, he had these oratorical skills that he could speak to big crowds. Tell us a little more about that.
He eventually made enough money speaking around the country that he was able to retire from his law practice, and that was one of the main way that he made a living, was speaking around the country. He did that for years, and he was also on the Chautauqua circuit sometimes. He did a world tour, as a matter of fact, with his family, and he financed that world tour with speaking engagements.
And you mentioned he did other things besides politics.
He was a newspaper person. He was editor at one time of the Omaha World Herald, and then he had his own newspaper called The Commoner, and that was published and dispensed weekly around the country. They moved to Florida after they lived in D.C. for his wife's health. They did at one time have a home in Texas too, again the same, just briefly, for the same reason, her health.
But this house is here and just stands as a reminder of, you know, what William Jennings Bryan did in his lifetime.
Yes, it's preserved because of the notoriety of him. He was pretty famous person when you consider that he was a presidential candidate 3 times.
Kathi, thank you very much for telling us who William Jennings Bryan was and his significance here in Nebraska.
You're very welcome, and I hope that people have received enough information that they'll be excited to come and see the home.